On page 120, working with the Magic Wand tool, the Magic Wand makes selections based on tonal similarities. It lets you select a consistently colored area, for example, a blue sky, without having to trace its outline. You control the range it automatically selects by adjusting the tolerance. So we're going to browse in Bridge, which I already have it open here, and we're going to open the 0502 PSD file. Right here. And we're going to go File, Save As. And we're going to name it PS0502_work. Select and hold the Quick Selection tool to locate and select the hidden Magic Wand. So actually mine is showing up right here, but if you click and hold that, you can see Quick Selection, Magic Wand. Click Magic Wand. In the options bar, make sure the tolerance is set to 32, and it is. Position your cursor over the red portion of the kite and click once. Notice that similar tonal areas that are touching are selected. Place your cursor over different parts of the kite and click to see the different selections that are created. The selections pick up only similar tonal areas that are touching, which in this case is generally not the most effective way to make a selection. Okay. Choose Select, Deselect, or Control D to deselect. Click once in the sky at the top center of the image. The sky becomes selected. Don't worry if the sky is not entirely selected. It is because those areas are outside of the tolerance range of the area that you selected with the Magic Wand tool. To see what is included in a selection, position any selection tool over the image. If the icon appears as a hollow arrow with a dotted box next to it, it is over an active selection. There's a plus sign. If the icon of the tool or crosshair appears, then that area is not part of the active selection. Press Control 0 to fit the picture to the screen. Then hold down the Shift key and click the area of the sky that was unselected. Looks to me like it's all selected. Those areas are to be added. Okay, so we're going to inverse. So select, inverse. Now the selection has been turned inside out, selecting the kite. Inversing a selection is a helpful technique when solid colors are part of an image, as you can make quick selections instead of focusing on the more diversely colored areas of the image. If you have control over the environment when you capture your images, it can be helpful to take a picture of an object against a solid background. That way you can create quick selections using tools like Quick Selection and the Magic Wand. Don't worry if you accidentally deselected a region, as Photoshop remembers your last selection. With the selection of the kite still active, choose Select, Deselect, or Control D to deselect, and it is deselected. Then choose Select, Reselect to reselect the kite. Now you will sharpen the kite without affecting the sky. Choose Filter, Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. The Unsharp Mask dialog box appears. Drag the amount slider to the right to about 150, or type in 150 into the amount text field. Amount is here. I'm going to type a 1 in there. Leave the radius text field at 1 and change the threshold slider to about 10. There are reasons that you have entered these settings. They are just not addressed in this section, this selection lesson. Read more about unsharp mask in lesson 6. We'll get to that in the future. So now we're at the top of page 122. Click and drag in the preview pane to bring the kite into view. Right here. Notice that in the preview pane of the unsharp mask dialog box, only the kite is sharpened. Position your cursor over the kite in the preview pane and then click and hold. This temporarily turns the preview off. Release the mouse to see the unsharp mask filter effect applied. And then press OK. I'm just going to say OK. Choose File and then Save and then File Close. I'm just going to close and say yes to save. Okay, so now we're going to look at the lasso tool. The lasso tool is a free-form selection tool. It is great for creating an initial rough selection and even better for cleaning up an existing selection. The selection that you create is as accurate as your hand on the mouse or trackpad allows it to be, which is why it lends itself to general cleaning up of selections. The best advice when using this tool is not to worry about being too precise. You can modify the selection as you will see later in this section. So browse in Bridge and we're going to open 0503. You will now create a selection using the lasso tool. So click the lasso tool in the tools panel, which is, that's the magnetic lasso. We're going to click that right here's lasso. Click slightly outside the snowboarder and drag the lasso tool around him. The lasso selection that you are making does not have to be perfect, as you will have an opportunity to edit it shortly. So I'm just going to click and drag like this. Adding to and subtracting from selections. You created a selection that surrounds a snowboarder. You'll now use the lasso tool to refine that selection. So deleting from the selection. Click the lasso tool in the tools panel. It's already chosen. Look at your image and determine the areas of your selection that you want to delete. This might include the area between the snowboarder and the selection of the sky surrounding him. Press and hold the Alt key, and notice that the cursor turns into a lasso with a minus sign. Holding the Alt key, click and drag outside the selected area and into the active selection. Release the mouse when you have circled back to your original starting point. The new lasso selection you made is deleted from the existing selection. So we're going to use the Alt key, click and drag outside the selected area and into the active selection. So I'm pointing here and I'm holding down the Alt key. Notice the minus sign popped up and I'm going to click there and drag into the active selection and then circle back up and let go. And now that's been deleted from the selection. To practice the skill, press and hold the Alt key and click to start your lasso path on the edge of the snowboarder for a short bit. When you want to end the lasso path, make sure to circle back around to the starting point. You do not have to delete the sky from all the edges of the snowboarder for this exercise. However, to prepare for the next section, you will delete the section between the snowboarder's legs and the board. Okay, with the Alt key pressed, click anywhere, and I'm going to zoom in here so I can see this better. I'm going to change the 100 to 150. That's a little bit better. I'm going to go even to 200 down here. Whoa. 200. Okay. Click anywhere on the inside edge of one of the snowboarder's legs and drag all the way around the inner edge over the mitten and back to the starting point. Release the mouse when you're done. So I'm going to click here, point here, hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to click and drag around like this until I get right back to here, and then I'm going to let go and it's selected. Okay. If you want to add to an active selection, press and hold the Shift key and choose a closed area. Follow these steps to bring the mitten back into the active selection. Press and hold the Shift key and click and drag along the edge of the mitten. Make sure you drag beyond the mitten and down into the active area at the top and bottom to create a fully encompassed area to add to the selection. So Shift and drag. So Shift, and now it turns to a plus sign, and I'm going to drag around the mitten right here like this. Oh. Make sure you drag beyond the mitten and down into the active area. Oh, okay. So I'm going to click Shift, click, and back into the active area. And it added it back in. You can continue to Shift drag to add areas that you missed. Using the Shift key to add to a selection and the Alt key to delete from a selection, you can edit selections created with any of the selection tools. So saving a selection, you should always save your selection because you might accidentally delete it or you might need to reactivate it at another time. So select Save Selection. By the way, I didn't take the time in this video to delete all of this around the edges. You should do that. Try to get as close to the snowboarder as you can and delete as much of the sky as you possibly can. So save selection, select, save selection, and type snowboarder. And then click OK. Anytime that you might want to reactivate the selection, choose Select Load Selection. So I'm going to do Control D to deselect. Select Load Selection. And I'm going to pick Snowboarder and say OK. And there's my selection that I just saved. Choose File and Save and keep this open for the next exercise.